Welcome to Life Recovery Chats. Today we're going to be talking about step 2 of the 12 steps. I'll give an overview and then go through some quick key points with us. So step 2 is that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. In the first step of the 12 steps, we come to a place where we come out of our denial of our addiction, of whatever substance it is that has been having such a stronghold on our life. And we admit that on our own strength, on our own power, we cannot overcome this thing. We don't know how to overcome it. And so in step 2, we begin to look outside of ourselves. We begin to look towards something greater than ourselves that can help us restore us to sanity. And typically this would be known as God. That God exists, that He wants to restore us to sanity, that He's greater than we are, and that His ways are greater than we are. And so let's take a look at some of the key points when it comes to this step. The first key point I want to address with us is that we come to an acceptance that we are not God and that He both exists and that He actually wants to help us. And so this is a step of searching, especially for someone like myself who came from the background of atheism where I had totally rejected God. And yet when I found myself in that pit where I was totally broken and realized that I could not help myself no matter how hard I tried. See, I wanted to get over my addiction. I wanted to clean up my life. I realized the terrible crop that I had been reaping from the lifestyle I had been living, which is often the case. You know, it starts out as a fun thing, but then eventually you reap the harvest of it and it destroys your relationships. It destroys your finances. It destroys so many aspects of your life. And so I came to realize I don't want to do this anymore. And yet I found myself so hopelessly addicted that when I hit that point and I wanted to change, I didn't know how to change. I kept using every single day. And it wasn't until I humbled myself and began to seek out that maybe, just maybe, God was real. Maybe He was there and He would be willing to help me. And so that's a key point of step 2 is humbling ourselves and coming to that point where we accept that we are not God. We are not God. And that He both exists and that He actually wants to help us. And it's pretty simple, actually. Jesus in the Bible actually said, seek and you will find. And so if you begin seeking, just that little bit of faith, I didn't know if God heard me, I didn't know if He was real, but just that little bit of seeking, saying, God, if you're real, I want to know. Reveal yourself to me. And asking Him to reveal Himself to you can make such a radical difference when it comes to entering into step 2 of the 12 steps. Second, being in community, we realize that if God has done this for others, He can do it for us. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people who have ended up coming to know God, whether through the 12 steps or through other means, but they came to know God and how God radically changed their lives. How God took them from a pit of destruction, a pit of addiction, a pit of hopelessness, and instead put them in a place where they were living victoriously, where they were living with joy, where they were living with peace. I'm an example of one of those stories, and there's countless others that I've experienced. And as you commit yourself to that community, you begin to hear other people's stories. A great way to do that, you know, if you're not comfortable with going to church, is to check out a AA meeting, to check out a 12-step meeting, and to hear some of the stories of the people and their lives and what God has done for them. Another way is to go to church. Attend a local church and get to know some of the people and hear and listen to their stories. A lot of people assume everyone just inherited their religion, but that's not always the case. There's often many people that you can find who came to faith actually from a point of rejecting God, of not accepting him. And when you hear what he's done in their lives, it can build up faith in you to believe that if he did it for them, he might be willing to do it for you. The next key point I want to make is that this step is a transferring of our trust and confidence. You can also call that our faith in ourselves to something greater than ourselves. See, so we let go of that faith and trust in ourselves and thinking that we know how we're going to conquer this. We know how we're going to get the victory, to letting go of that and going, I'm not going to put my faith in myself anymore and in my ability and my knowledge. I'm going to transfer that over to the care of God. I'm going to believe that a power greater than myself actually can restore me to a state of sanity. Next key point, we come to an understanding that living the way we are in destructive behaviors is insane. It's amazing the insanity of addiction. It's amazing how knowing that this substance or this thing is destroying your life, is destroying your relationships, is destroying your finances, is destroying your health, is destroying so many things about you, and yet we continue to run to it. That's absolutely insane. And yet it happens to so many people in this world. And so in this step, we realize that we are living insanely and that we need to be restored to sanity. The next key point, and the final key point that we want to look at here when it comes to step 2, is that we come to understand that we are never alone and that God desires to help us overcome and to live a victorious, sane life. There's so much loneliness that comes in the lifestyle of addiction, particularly with drugs and alcohol. You surround yourself with people. You can't handle being alone, and yet no one truly ever sees you. No one truly ever sees what's really going on inside because you're so busy trying to mask up, to cover up what that thing is. And oftentimes you just end up becoming this caricature of yourself. You're not the real you. But the reality is that God knows who the real you is, and he cares about you. And he desires to restore you to sanity. And so if I was to give one piece of advice when it comes to step 2, it's simply this: seek and you will find. Ask and you will receive. Knock and the door will be opened. God bless y'all.